Hey everybody, this is Cromar with TGN, welcoming you to another World of Warcraft Cataclysm video. Today we're looking at gems. We're looking at how to gem your character. I'm going to go through every single type of character, various kinds of DPS, tanks, and healers, and talk about what gems to get from what slot. So first of all, let's start with meta gems. The simple meta gem is going to be for healers. You're going to want the Revitalizing Shadow Spirit Diamond, which is Spirit and increased critical healing effect. Spirit is your best stat for healers, so that's why this is clearly the best one. However, there's another option, Ember Shadow Spirit Diamond. This is Intellect and maximum mana. Now, you're probably thinking, well, I need a lot of mana, plus Intellect helps my healing power, but the thing is, when you increase your mana, you're only gaining, you increase your total mana, you're only gaining a boost to your mana once per fight, since that is never going to be filled up again. However, with Spirit, you're constantly recharging throughout the fight. So that's why over a long fight, which is what's really important, your Spirit's going to give you more of a bonus. Now for tanking, there's a little bit of a controversy. There's two different prefixes that you want to look at. Austere, stamina, increased armor, and eternal, which is stamina and 5% shield block value. Now, the problem is, if you do the math on these two, Eternal's actually slightly better, because the shield block value is better than the armor, but it's actually bugged. According to tests, it's only actually increasing your shield block value by 1%, even though the tooltip says 5. Even if you put this on, and you look at your warrior or your paladin, and it actually seems to grant you 5% shield block value, but when you go and test it, you're getting 1% or less. Now, there has not been a blue post that I've been able to find on this subject, and I've looked all over, because I do have a prot warrior that I'm interested in gearing soon. So I really don't have an answer for you yet, which one is really truly better. I can tell you that right now, with the current state of Eternal, then Austere is better. So go with Austere for now for your tank, but switch it out for Eternal if that gets fixed. Of course, if you're a tank that doesn't block, such as Blood or Feral, then it's a moot point. You're going to go with Austere regardless. Next, for DPS, this is another problem. The strongest by far is Chaotic Shadow Spirit Diamond. Remember that Relentless does not exist in Cataclysm anymore. That was the agility one, so all your agility users are going to switch over to Chaotic. However, there's a serious problem with Chaotic at the moment. If you look at the requirements, it says requires more blue gems than red gems. This is a huge problem because, as you're about to see, red gems are much better than blue gems for agility users, for almost for everyone, really. However, there has been a blue post that revealed that they are going to be changing Chaotic back to the old version, which is either going to be 2 blues or 1 yellow, 1 blue, 1 red. I'm not sure which. I think it's 2 blues, but we'll see once the change finally comes in. However, they can't hotfix it. They have to wait till a patch. No word on when that patch is actually going to happen. So, what to do? Well, for now, using Chaotic with more blues than reds is the best way. It gives you the most DPS. So if you're doing something really difficult like raiding or whatever, and you need to push your DPS as high as possible, you want to go ahead and go with the Chaotic setup. The only drawback is that once they change the meta requirements, you're going to have to go and regem everything. So if you don't really care that much and you rather just keep it simple, and you rather just pass on the Chaotic and just put the Chaotic in later, in the meantime, what you can use, if you're an Imp user, you can use Ember, which is Intellect and maximum mana, because Intellect is such a fantastic stat. Unfortunately, there's no strength or agility metas for your strength and agility users, so you're kind of stuck. You're either going to have to use the Chaotic and regem later, or use a crappy one. This is a decent one. Fleet, if you're a class that likes Mastery, and I'll be getting into Mastery in much more detail later on near the end of the video, but this is an acceptable one for some people. And if you're a class that hates Mastery like a Combat Rogue, you shouldn't be playing a Combat Rogue regardless. But if you are for some reason, then you can also get Enigmatic. Now, there's no Shadow Spirit ones, but it's basically the same thing. It's just 54 crit rating and reduces root snare. I know it's kind of a stupid one because it's PvP oriented, but there's just no other choices. So really, if you can't use the Mastery and you can't use the Int, then just get the Chaotic. I mean, the Chaotic is clearly the best by far. It's just so hard to use right now, and it will be fixed later. So keep an eye out for patch notes. Once the requirements for Chaotic are fixed, it'll be a moot point, and you'll just want to use it no matter what. Now, on to red sockets. This is a simple one. Red sockets for DPS are very straightforward. Very, very straightforward. If you're strength, you're going to use bold, plus 40 strength. If you're intellect, you're going to use plus 40 intellect. And if you're agility, you're going to use plus 40 agility, delicate. Very, very simple. So how do you know which one you are? Well, if you are a warrior, a DK, or a paladin DPS, you're strength. If you're enhancement shaman, feral druid, hunter, or rogue, you're going to be agility, so you're going to want to use delicate. And if you're a balanced druid, an elemental shaman, or any clothy, you're going to be using intellect. You're going to be using brilliant. So those are very easy to gear for. For tanks, you want to start out by capping your expertise with precise is your best one. Of course, you can also get your expertise capped through reforging, so you may not need to do that. But if you get once you have your expertise capped, whether it's by reforging or gemming, you want to switch over to parry. Flashing gives you parry. The only exception is if you're a bear druid, you're going to be using agility, delicate, as if you were a cat. Now for healers, there's no primary stat on red for you to use, so instead you're going to be switching over to purple. And under purple, you're going to be looking for purified. There we go. Purified Demon's Eye. Intellect and Spirit, because Spirit is your primary stat. So in order to satisfy a red socket, you're going to want to get a purple gem so that you can get Spirit and Intellect. Now speaking of Spirit, we're going to move on to blue sockets. What do you do with blue sockets? Well, for healers, as I indicated, it's extremely simple. You just want to grab Sparkling, which is a plus 40 Spirit, because Spirit is your primary stat as a healer. As a tank, it's also very simple. You just want to grab Stamina, because Stamina is still the primary stat for every tank. There may be some exceptions in the future, but at current gear levels, clearly you need as much Stamina as possible to stay alive. For DPS, it's a little more complicated. You're going to go to purple. You want to get a combination of hit plus your primary stat. This is one example, etched. If you're strength or glinting, if you're agility, for example, you get your primary stat plus hit rating. Now, remember, there is a hit cap. You want to make sure that you have 0% chance to miss against whatever you're fighting, whether that's a level 87 heroics or level 88 raid boss. However, there's no need to even worry about your gems, because if you go over the hit rating, you can reforge out of hit. Or if you go below the hit rating, you can reforge into hit on your gear. You want to use your primary stat plus hit, no matter what, if you're a DPS. Now, for our last category, we've got yellows, and these are a little more complicated. For your yellow sockets, now you're not going to ever use straight up yellow gems. That's your amber jewels. These are worthless. You never want to use these because there's no class which calls yellow gem as its primary stat. There's no, tanks and healers use blue, DPS use red, nobody uses yellow. So in order to fill those yellow slots, we're going to be using orange and green gems. Starting with tanks. Tanks have it easy. All you need to get is mastery plus stamina. So this is your mastery plus stamina gem. Now there is one exception. If you are a bear tank, you want to get dodge instead. Your dodge and stamina is your regal gem. So again, bear tanks dodge, all other tanks want mastery. Next for healers, they have it really simple. You just want to grab mastery and spirit, because spirit is of course your primary stat, and mastery is actually very useful for all healing classes. I don't think there's any healing class which benefits more from crit, and especially not haste, since all haste really does is spend your mana faster. Mastery, on the other hand, increases your primary healing ability, whether that's shielding or just straight up healing, for every single class. So you want to go with Zen for all of your yellow sockets. Now, last but certainly not least comes what to do with yellow sockets on your DPS. This is the most complicated one, and it's vastly different for every single class. So, in order to answer this question, which gem do I use for yellow sockets? I've created a chart. Now, you want to use an orange gem that gets your primary stat, strength, agility, or intellect, and then a secondary stat. Your secondary stat's either mastery, or haste, or crit. So that's a total of 9 different gems that you want to pick from. So to tell whether to use mastery, crit, or haste, you're going to refer to this chart. This chart indicates which spec uses which stat as their best secondary stat. Now, this data I've gathered from Elitist Jerks forum. I've actually just went through each Elitist Jerks forum one by one and found what they concluded to be the best stat. Some of these match what we did in the beta. Some of them have changed because they changed around a lot of stuff, especially mastery. Mastery is a brand new stat, and they did tons of rebalancing with it. So figure out your combination, your primary stat plus your secondary stat, and just scroll through the gems under orange until you find what you're looking for, like agility and crit, agility and haste, here's strength and crit, and so on and so forth. Just go through the whole list. Intellect and haste, you'll find the one you want. You can also look it up on the internet to see which prefix you want and go that way too. Now, I want to clarify something on this chart that may be a little confusing. You see I have Frost Mage listed twice. Frost Mages have an extremely unique setup with their shatter. To make a long story short, once you're above 33.3% crit stops helping you. So you want to switch over to mastery. So just keep an eye on your crit. Don't let it go over 33.3, and if it does, start reforging and regemming towards your mastery instead. I have more information about why that is in my Frost Mage DPS rundown, which you can find on our forums at wow.tgn.tv under the Mage Guides. Now, one important thing about this chart is that many of these are not 100% for sure. Some of them are clear, some of them are not. Again, I got this data from Elitist Jerks, and some of these simply aren't done yet. Some of them are speculation. Some of them are they just have no information whatsoever, and I just had to kind of figure it out. So take this with a little bit of a grain of salt. With patch changes, with theory crafting, and more, we may determine that some of these are wrong, and I'll have to change them. And I can't change them inside the video itself, but if you go to our forums again at wow.tgn.tv, I will have a post there, which I will keep updated as the stats change. I'll also put annotations in the video indicating anything that's wrong. But for now, if you use this chart, you should be able to figure out your best bet for gemming at 85. Well, that's it for today. This is Cromar with TGN. Thank you for watching. As always, please rate, please comment, and please subscribe.